So we're back with Jo Pearson. I'm going to continue the discussion about her journey through the creative world over the many years that she's been a part of the creative world. Hi, this is Clint O'Rear. Thanks for joining the Creative Retail Talks podcast today, where we will be discussing the latest in life, business, and retail. Okay, so Jo, when you got signed to the show Craft Wars, I was trying to remember how old my girls were. They were like elementary school, my two oldest ones, and they thought that you were like superstar status because you were on this TV show Craft Wars. So let's talk about that for a minute. I'd love to hear kind of what your experience was like on that show. And so Tori Spelling was the moderator of the show.
Right.
You and a couple other people were judges. So tell people about kind of who was on that show with you and what it was like to work with them. And let's start out talking about that.
Well, you know what was funny? When I actually found out about the show, my boss at that time, Paula, called me into her office and she said, well, Jo, I have something to kind of tell you, and you can say no if you want to. So then she tells me about the show and I'm my eyeballs are like, this big around and I can't contain myself. She said, now there's only one problem. And this was on a Wednesday. She said, you have to leave on Friday. And you have to be gone. You have to be gone for 5 weeks.
Nothing like advance notice, huh?
Really? And I was just like, I didn't even have to blink to say yes. So so my adventure began, and I got down to, it was actually taped in LA at one of the studios, yeah. And being the big shot, they came and picked me up in a car.
Of course, yeah.
And, so we get to this beautiful hotel, and that day, the person who dresses us, comes up with our clothes. She actually came to my hotel to see what I had brought, which none of it was going to be appropriate. So that next morning, then we went on set, and I met the other two judges, and of course, then I got to meet Tori. And they had this amazing set up where they had, if anybody has watched it, you can still go back and Google it. And you can still find some of the, you can still watch it. But they had one whole wall that was like, I don't know, it had to be 24 foot or longer. That was nothing but set up with supplies.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything that you could think of. And then they had the 4 tables. Was it 4? Isn't that awful? I don't remember. They had the tables set up where the contestants were. And it started out to where the contestants, they were going to do 2 different challenges. Mm-hmm. And the first one, they were told, now you have to make this or this. And, it has to be made out of everything that you can get off of the big wall. Mm-hmm. Now, besides that, outdoors, out in the back of the studio, they had all the power tools. I mean, they had tents set up, and I mean, there were chop saws, there were drills, there were everything. Wow. And where they would build then, if whatever it was that somebody wanted built.
Yeah.
So the first challenge, the 3 judges sat, and Tori, stood over there by us. And they would I think the first one was only like, maybe it was an hour. I've slept since then. Isn't that awful? I don't remember. And Tori would go up and say, well, how are you doing? And she'd say something that, she'd ask us how we thought they were doing or whatever. And so then when it was all over, we would walk around and we would look at what they'd made, and we would go back and make the decision on who was going to get to go, on. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of interesting. Some of the things were a little bizarre, and I have a saying: if you can't glue it, don't do it.
Well, okay. So I was gonna say you. I think if I remember right, you earned a nickname on that show. You remember what the nickname was?
Yeah, I'm not sure I should say it. I was the glue Nazi.
Right.
You might want to change that. But yes, I was. You know what? I was like, you used the wrong glue, you this or that. Yeah. And you know what? I remember one of the contestants, she had sprayed spray adhesive on the back of some material, and then she ran it through the sewing machine. Oh. Well, the sewing machine never worked again because it had just gotten, and some of them just they didn't even know what kind of glue to use, or, so yes, I was definitely, if there was a glue question, I was the one that got it. And I was always, then I could be the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So Joe, who were some of the other judges that were on that show with you?
Erica and Stephen were the other two judges. And it was us through the whole show. The three of us were, we did the whole thing. And then, of course, Tori. So they were, we had some great fun.
Yeah. Was there pretty good camaraderie between the judges?
You know what? There really was. It was kind of like Erica and Stephen would kind of butt heads a little bit sometimes, I just leaned back because I didn't want to get in the middle of all that.
You were like the peacemaker, huh?
Really. So, but after the contestants did their first, their first challenge, and we chose I think it was two then that we chose to stay. Mm-hmm. During the breaks, we would go off, and they had a tent area set up where they had the monitors where we could watch. And of course, then if you've ever been on a TV set at all, you would know that food is a big deal. There'd be the green room, which was our tent. Yeah. And then, they had somebody who literally cooked all the time. So then they'd have food trucks that came at lunchtime that we could go out and get our food. And what was so fun about that too is RuPaul was taping right across the way from us. So we'd see all the fun stuff going on. It was, it was crazy. So then we went back in for our second big challenge, and that was one that was several hours, and they actually built structures. There was one that they built a schoolhouse and a this and that, and that was pretty wild. So it really was kind of hard to choose who was going to be the winner. For that, I think it was $5,000 they won. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So that was great fun. That was great fun. Yeah.
I remember watching it. That it was a very competitive experience for the contestants, for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? When they first got their supplies, they would come in with wheelbarrows, and they would just dump all of this stuff in a huge big pile, and the contestants would come and choose what they thought they wanted to use, and then all of it went away. So then all they had was what they could pick off of the back wall, but it was pretty well stocked back there.
Yeah.
There was some unusual stuff going on.
So what was it like working with Tori Spelling? Did you, I don't know if you got to spend a lot of time around her. I'm not sure how the filming of all that works, but what was it like working with her and being around her some?
Well, you know what? She really was very charming. And we all, we just fit, it's funny because we just fit in then kind of like a family right away. Yeah. She brought her family one time for us to meet. And of course, then, Tori had her own makeup artist and hairstylist and so we'd all in the morning go and get our makeup and our hair done and, all of that. And then of course, Tori had, clothes out the, whatever to choose from. And she had somebody that did all that, but we had fun. It wasn't uncomfortable or awkward. We just all kind of, we kind of all just fit in together. And actually one after we went to lunch all together. And of course we didn't get very far when we went to the place there in LA where, they sell all of the, I can't remember what it's called, where all the stuff and all the tents and shoes and purses and makeup and all that. And we were walking that. Well, like I said, we didn't get very far because people wanted to stop and get Tori's, autograph. They didn't ask for our autographs, but that's okay.
They didn't say, "Hey, you're Joe Pearson."
So, but and like I said, she brought her family. We got to meet her husband and the kids. And so it was fun. It was good. It was good.
Yeah. I mean, just watching it as a spectator on TV, it seemed like the chemistry was really good with you and the judges and with Tori. And so that's really neat. I was sad that it didn't go longer than it did. What did it go, like 10 episodes? Do I remember that right?
Yes. Yeah. And they said the reason we didn't get picked up was it was really strange because they changed the time of it a couple in the day, a couple different times. So
Yeah.
they didn't, they didn't have the, oh my gosh, I got to watch this at 9 o'clock on Thursday. And,
Right.
people weren't really sure when it was on. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that, Tori had just found out that she was pregnant again. And I'm not sure whether she would have gone on with that or not. We had what we had.
Well, you guys did a great job with it. I can tell you, my girls certainly loved it. And like I said, they thought you were a superstar for being a judge on Craft Wars. So, hey, you made an impression on a lot of people.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was fun.
Is there anything kind of when everything was done with it, anything that you learned new or kind of took with you that kind of a new experience with all that?
Well, you know what? I had done some TV before, just going in and, back and forth, but it is such a long, it is this process. And, we'd tape for a little bit and then, we'd sit for hours. And so it really did. We started at 6 o'clock in the morning and we didn't end until 6 o'clock that night. Yeah. And that would be tape one show. So, there's a lot of changing and, we wore earbuds so that the producers could talk to us and they'd say, say this or say that. And there were times when they'd tell us, hey, just throw this in or, say that. But pretty much everything that we said was just off of our own, whatever it was we thought we should say at the time.
Yeah.
So they would kind of tell you sometimes to say things and I'd say, oh, I don't think I can say that. It's like,
I've always wondered, but I've never been on TV. So I've always wondered what that experience was where someone's talking in your ear while you're trying to talk and like listen in your ear and talk at the same time. That's got to be a really weird sensation.
It is, because it's kind of like, okay, what did he just tell me to say? And then what was it I was supposed to say? So it could get a little, and like I said, there were things sometimes that they'd say, and I can't say that. So it was different.
Yeah. Well, what a cool experience though.
I know it was. And the people that we worked with, the producers, because each one of us kind of had someone who took care of us. And then of course, we had the people who dressed us. She'd go shopping and she'd come back with all this stuff and it's like, I don't think I want to wear. But so all that stuff was fun, and we got to keep a few pieces of our clothing that we wore. So we had some little sentimental things, and but they were long days. They were long, tiring days. And
that was pretty much just 5 straight weeks of that, huh?
Well, you know what? One of the weeks ended up actually being over Easter. So of course we didn't tape, and we didn't tape on Saturdays and Sundays. So we had that whole, that time, but there wasn't some place that you could just say, okay, hey, I'm going to go wherever. And you kind of just went back to the hotel and you were tired. You were tired and ready to rest up for the next. I think I came back to Dallas one time in between that 5 weeks.
Yeah. Wow.
Long.
An intense experience, especially on 2 days notice.
Yes. Oh, that was what was wild about it.
Yeah. Well, what a fun ride. So you did Craft Wars, kind of wrapped up your career at Michaels. What are some things you've been working on since you've left Michaels and have kind of been out on your own? What are some things you've been doing over the last few years?
Well, you know what? I have a little shop that I rent space in. And I make things. I still make my piano key angels. I still make those.
I remember those. Yeah.
Yeah. And so just, fun, crazy stuff. Now I make these creepy doll head lamps, which some people just go, oh, I can't believe that, but they're actually a nightlight that's got a porcelain doll head on the top with no eyes. And so when you turn her on, she's kind of creepy. So, I do that. And, of course, I've had fun decorating my house, not like I got to do my other house, but, it's still fun. And I live in a very quiet little subdivision. So, I don't have chairs hanging out of my trees here. And then I taught at the Senior Citizen Center. I went and I was the craft person there. One day I'd have maybe one person and one day I'd have 6. And now, of course, since all this craziness is going on, the center hasn't been open. But, so I have had, I've had fun doing that and
Yeah.
teaching at a couple other little shops, so
Yeah.
it keeps me off the streets.
Keeps you out of trouble. That's good. Well, that's so cool. So, I mean, think about that. From the journey we've talked about, you started out as a little girl doing crafts with a little side hustle, making a little money.
Yep.
as a child doing crafts, which is very, very intuitive, and then had a great career in retail and crafts, and now you're doing these neat things. So I want to see if you'll share some of your wisdom that you've gained all those years. So think about someone who might be listening who's just starting out in their career, and maybe it's a designer or an influencer, but someone who's starting out on this journey in a creative career. What advice would you give to that person from what you've learned along the way on your journey?
Well, you know what? First, I have to say there's no mistakes. There's just happy accidents.
Oh, that's good.
So, yeah. So, you know what? Sometimes us girls make something in the design studio and go, what were we thinking? It's just like, it didn't work. And you know what?
Yeah.
When you're creating something, you do have to remember not everything is going to come out perfect every time. And you just have to use your best judgment and say, okay, it was easy for me to make, but is that going to be easy for someone else to make? And now that I still turn some projects into some magazines and some things like that. And now what you have to remember is, I can't just go in my basement and pull stuff out that's 30 years old.
Yeah.
Because they don't make it anymore. If if they don't make it anymore, how do you think that, Mary Sue over here is going to be able to make it?
Yeah.
So you do have to be, you have to be very conscious of what you're making and, doing those things. So, the other thing is, it's like, you just have to embrace the people that you meet along the way, because they are so amazing. Take what advice somebody wants to give you and just, kind of inhale it in, because you know what? I don't have all the answers. I learned so much from the people that I've got to meet and work with in this industry. And you know what? You have to share.
Yes.
There's no reason for us to have this knowledge if we're not going to share it with the other people that are out there that need to learn.
Yeah.
Just because I know what every kind of glue is supposed to be used for doesn't mean that you do. And so when you learn those things, and when you learn that things don't work, don't be negative about sharing it, but share, hey, you know what? I tried that too, and I just couldn't get it to work. So I tried this. And that's just how we have to, we just have to go through this, learning from each other and sharing. And that really is important. And just to listen to other people as they're going to try and give you a little bit of advice. Don't be like, oh, well, I knew that, I know all that, because guess what? We just don't. I mean, there's still so much, there's so many new products and stuff out there that I do miss not getting to learn and work with that kind of stuff. So that's,
good. That's good advice.
I've had the most amazing career, and it's because God put me in the right place at the right time and put people in my life like you. And the truth, it's the truth. I know. I just love and miss all you guys.
Well, that's what is so special about this industry. I truly believe, and there's people listening in other industries, and other industries are great, but the creative industry in a lot of ways is truly like a family. You've got creative people like you, and people who are selling products like my company does, people who are developing products like the suppliers that we work with. But at the end of the day, I think for everybody, especially as you get to kind of the latter part of your career, or where you're at, where you've retired and you're kind of looking back, those relationships are what's special, and those shared moments are what's truly special. And so you're right. I wouldn't trade any. That's what makes it a great journey altogether, for sure, right?
I don't want to be done with my journey yet.
No, you're not done with your journey. Just the journey continues. There's just different people that are part of your journey now, but your journey definitely continues. And I love the things that you're doing with teaching classes and your shop and that kind of thing. So, all right, I'm going to give you a huge opportunity here. While you're giving advice, let's give some advice from your perspective to the suppliers and retailers in the creative industry. So this is advice from Joe Pearson with 30 years of experience. What is your advice that you think suppliers and retailers need to be thinking about looking ahead to continue to connect with people like you, the makers, the creators, to have success, to continue to propel this industry forward?
You know, I think a big portion of that is to just listen to maybe some of the suggestions that we have, whether it's a put up, whether it's how something's put together, and keeping new innovative things out there, you know, but asking us for our feedback is one thing, but then listening to it. And I'm not saying that, you know, oh, I said, hey, you should make this purple and you still think it should be pink. You know, we're not the, you know, we don't have all the answers, but it really does help when you guys will listen to us.
Yeah.
And, you know, there were a lot of times where there was something new that we just thought, wow, if we only had this. And sometimes, you know, somebody would just blow us off and go, yeah, right. You know, not going to happen. But listening to us, I think, and sharing what you have before it goes out there on the market sometimes, because you know what, we will be the one that'll come back to you and say, hey, you know what, that just isn't going to work for this particular industry.
Yeah.
So, you know, listening and I think it's that whole sharing thing. You know what, we used to sit around the table and pick out what color duct tape was going to be, you know, and the next time you see it, it's like, oh my gosh, those cute little campers are on that duct tape. They listen. Yeah. You know, and you guys are so good, your company. And of course, you know, I love Mr. Randy Putnam dearly, and I haven't talked to him in forever. But you guys were so good about listening to us. And that makes a big difference. It really, really.
Well, hey, at the end of the day, you guys are the end consumer. And so, you know what, I will say this for the retailers in our industry overall, I won't single anyone out, but really overall for the retailers in our industry, I do feel like they're doing a better job of listening to the makers and creators today than they did, you know, maybe even when you were kind of in the industry and at Michael's. So I think that's a very positive direction of the industry. And I think some light bulbs have gone off. And, you know, I think, again, every retailer in the industry, I think, is realizing, you know, we've got to connect more and listen better to the end consumer, the maker, creator, artist, crafts person. And I do think that's a very positive step.
And you know what, Clint, I think social media has made a lot of that happen.
Yes,
because
for sure.
Those crafters and bloggers and scrapbookers and all that, they are the ones that are telling it how it happens. Yeah. And so social media has absolutely changed the industry also. Yeah. I mean, it
really has.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's provided people who want to provide ideas and feedback a platform to do it. And it's also provided a platform for people who are making products and selling products to gather that kind of input to take into account as they're deciding on what products to develop and what changes to make and that kind of thing. So you're right. Social media has been a game changer, and the people that are using it the most effectively, I think right now are definitely having the most success.
Oh, I think there's no doubt to that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not great savvy. Well, you know, you found that out when I was trying to turn the microphone on my phone. You know, I wish that I were more savvy about being out there and being on the, you know, and doing, you know, my own. I wanted to do videos when I moved here, and I didn't get that done.
Hey, you just need to find a friend who wants to take advantage of your knowledge in creative things, and you can take advantage of their knowledge of technological things, and you guys make a great Great partnership.
Oh, I would love to do that.
All right. So one last question for you. And if you don't have an answer for this, it's okay. But I like to throw this out from time to time. So what question should I have asked you? What question do you wish I had asked you that I didn't ask you?
You know what? I think you did a great job.
Well,
I think
good.
I can't think of, other than just saying, you know what, you got to go out there, you got to try it. You've got to, if at first don't succeed, we try it again. But
Yep.
I can't think, I'm so excited that I got to share my story with you and hopefully with some of the people out there, and that I didn't offend anyone. I really have. I have so enjoyed my life in the craft world, and I can't imagine going back and being that medical assistant, even though I have
Yes.
I have compassion, but I love creating. I love to make a mess. Oh my, all of us crafters, that is something. You have never met a neat crafter, and if you had, I'm just not really sure that's where her talents lay.
They may not really be creative, right?
Most of us are really basically kind of hoarders in our own way. Don't get rid of anything because you might need it, but
Right.
So it's just, but yeah, I've had an amazing, my journey isn't over, but thus far I've had an amazing ride.
That's great, Joe. Well, it has been so fun to visit with you and reminisce and hear your story and your journey. And thank you for everything you shared. And I look forward to seeing where the journey continues to take you.
Well, thank you so much. Say hi to everybody out there that I don't get to see. And I'm waiting for that trade show like you and I talked about, ready to come back.
I think they're coming. I think they're coming. New York Now just announced that they're going live in person in August. So
really?
Yes. So I think the trade shows are coming back in late 2021 and 2022. So maybe we'll get to run into each other at one sometime in the next 12 months.
Oh, I hope so. I look forward to that.
I do too. Well, Joe, thanks again for being with us.
Thank you so much. You have a blessed rest of the day.
You too. I hope you enjoyed our conversation on the Creative Retail Talks podcast today. Be sure to visit our show notes page for more information on today's show. And if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, reach out to me at clint@creativeretailtalks.com. Creative Retail Talks is all one word. That email address will also be in the show notes. Hope you have a great day.